Баба Дорофея померла сухая, як фасолевый стручок. А мать сляпая, але ў прытомнасці, спраўнасці. Рына ў гэты час даглядала нямецкіх старых, а не сваю бабу. У гэтым нейкая завершанасць, лагічная пятля. Мы з немцамі звязаныя на дурное і на добрае. А што там было дурное, што добрае? Прэшце заціраецца і робіцца няважнае. Пасля вакацый Рыну з прытулку выгналі. За п'янкі. Зрэшты, яна адчувала, што жыццё звужаецца і трэба вяртацца да хаты. Цяпер жа ўсё склалася так, што і думаць не трэба. Яе, як кацяня, запхнулі ў мех, завязалі шворачкай, ды нясуць у родныя мар'іны балоты.
Granny Dorothea was all dried out like a string bean when she died, almost blind, but still with all her wits and dignity about her. At the time, Rina was looking after old German ladies instead of her old lady in her own home. There is something of a completion in this, a loop of logic. For better or worse, we've been bound up with the Germans. Whatever there's been between us, both good and bad, is becoming blurred and losing all meaning. After the holidays, Rina was sacked from the care home for drunkenness. More than anything, she felt that life was closing in on her and that she should go home. Now, though, things had turned out in a way that meant she didn't have to think. She's been shoved in a sack like a kitten. The sack's been tied up with a bit of old rope, and now it's been carried off to the Marian marshes of her childhood.
Рына ўсё сядзела, не наважаючыся зрабіць тое, што мусіла. Урэшце дастала з рюкзака пойла і азірнулася ў пошуку загрызкі. На падваконні пад форткаю, куды мелася адляцець душа, стаяў бабін кілішак гарэлкі, прыкрыты лустаю. Рына разломила лусту, перапросила бабу, выпила і хуценька загрызла. Алкаголь адразу ўсё адмяніў і прыхарошыў. Яе місія ўжо не была такой страшнаватай. Яна дастала Наташин скрутачак з торбы і прашаптала: «Вось яно, баба, перадай там яго, сама ведаеш каму. Не шлі мне ў ляпу смярцёнага праз срэбра даронае. Не я дару, зямля дорыць. Стаяць на мяжы тры каласы, у зямлю карані, неба валасы. Нават калі не верыш у навукі, перадаць на той свет рэч спасыльную страшна. Праз такую рэч можна перадаць смярцельныя ўлякі з таго свету во сне. Але гэтая рэч мела ўладальніка, і да яго павінна падысці».
Rina just sat there, not daring to do what had to be done. Finally, she took the booze out of her backpack and looked around in search of something to chew on. There, on the windowsill, beneath the little window pane through which Granny's soul was supposed to depart, stood Granny's shot of vodka, covered with a slice of black bread. Rina broke some off, begged Granny's pardon, took a swig from her bottle, and swiftly ate the bread. The alcohol immediately changed everything for the brighter and better. Her mission no longer seemed so terrifying. She took Natasha's little package out of her bag and whispered,
"Here it is, Granny. Pass it on to you know who. Send me not a deadly curse through gift of silver, I do beseech you. 'Tis not I who give, but the earth herself, On the edge there grow 3 stalks of rye. Their roots do thrust into the ground. Their arms reach high into the sky.
Even if you don't believe in Granny's knowledge, it's still scary to send something to the other world by means of a messenger. It's exactly the kind of thing you do if you wanted deadly curses delivered back at you in your sleep. This particular object, however, had an owner, and it must be returned.
Рына слизганула рукой уздовж тела, злякавшись яго цвёрдасці і холаду. Бацькі недалюблівалі Дарафею, але труну абабілі тым, чым яна хацела. Блакітным атласам, цёплым і пухнатым ад споду і зімным да слізкім зверху. Рына намацала сладку ў атласе і уклала ў яе скрутачак так, як быў, з наташанымі ўхарошваннямі. Слёз і смутку не было. Была стома і згода. Урэшце 101 год гэта шмат. Яшчэ была магчымасць узяць бабіну руку і прыняць дар з ведзьмы раджоны да ведзьмы вучоны. Але Рына збаялася. Як казаў орка Баренбойм, я не веру ў Бога, але я ведаю, што ён ёсць. Яна імкліва выйшла і пабачыла ля дрывотні вогнішча. Пры ім стаяў бацька, варочаў кавянёю агні. Іскры шыбалі ўгару, асвятляючы чорныя дрэвы, пустыя барозны. Што ты паліш? На што? Яна яшчэ ў зямлі не супакоілася, а ты ўжо паліш! Закрычала яна, убачыўшы ў агні шэрыя вокладкі, прашытыя шаршаткаю і анілінавыя вялікія літары. Рына кінулася да агню, выдзерла ў бацькі кавяню і выграбла груду сшыткаў, крамных і самаробных, садраных шпалераў, прашытых авечай ніткай. Яе сшыткі, яе крывыя, вялізныя літары. Нягледзячы на лікпункты школу, дарожка она не умела пісаць як след. Калі парісяты не хочуць браць цыцкі, намаш іх мёдам, прочитала Рына. І незваротнасць страты ударила яе. Рына села на калоду пры дрывотні і расплакалася. Нічога не вернеш. Яна брыдала па свеце, дзе папала, далёка ад таго, што сапраўды было важна. Хай крывое, каралае, паўмёртвае, але сваё. Адзінае, што было важным.
Rina slid her hand along Granny's body, alarmed by how firm and cold it was. Her parents may not have been fond of Dorofeia, but at least they furnished the coffin the way she wanted. Light blue satin, warm and fluffy underneath, cold and slippery on top. Rina felt for a fold in the satin and placed the package in it just as it was, with Natasha's decorations. There was no weeping or sorrow, just weariness and peace. After all, reaching the age of 101 is no mean feat. Rina could now have taken Granny's hand to allow the gift of witchcraft knowledge to pass from a born witch to a schooled one. But Rina was afraid. As Orka Barenboim used to say, I don't believe in God. know he exists. She hastily left the room and went outside. There was a fire burning near the woodshed. Her father was standing next to the fire, stirring the flames with a stick. Sparks lashed upwards, illuminating the black trees and the empty furrows. "What are you burning? Why? She's not even yet head in the ground and you are already burning her stuff," she shouted when she saw in the flames grey exercise book covers, stitched together with a thick needle and huge letters written in indelible pencil. Rina hurled herself at the fire, tore the stick away from her father, and scooped out a pile of exercise books, both shop-bought and ones Granny had made herself, from torn wallpaper stitched together with sheep's wool thread. Granny's notebooks, her big, crooked letters. Despite the Lichtpunkt and school, Doroshka had never been able to write properly. Rina read, "If the piglets do not want to suck, smear the teats with honey." And the irretrievable nature of the loss struck her full on. She sat on a stump by the woodshed and burst into tears. There is no way it can all be brought back. She had been wandering around the world any old where, a long way from what was really important. Sure, it was crooked, clumsy, half dead, but it was hers. The only thing that was really important.
Павялося, што большасць часу Рына жыла ў бабы. Да бацькоў хадзіла памыцца ў суботу і сераду. Часам яшчэ урод паказаць. У дашкольны час Рына сядзела на чорнай палове і глядзела, як баба лечыць спух на дзецях і дарослых, выкочваючы яго кужэльнымі хлебнымі шарикамі, як варыць свае мікстуры, зашэптвае рожы, вяжа вузельчыкі пад падушкі пітушчым мужикам. Рыну мала што цікавіла ў тэлевізары, і яна збольшага лячыла лялек на Дорожкін спосаб. Гледачы разнеслі па вёсцы навіну, што малая будзе мудрэйшая ведзьма, чым старая. І ўсе загаворы знае, як пачне прамаўляць, дык страх вялік. Аднак праз гэта ў Рыны зусім не было сяброў-сябровак. Апрача Наташы з другога канца доўгай вуліцы.
It turned out that for most of the time, Rina lived with her grandmother. She went to see her parents on Wednesdays and Saturdays to have a good wash and occasionally to show them her homework. Before she started going to school, Rina used to sit in the black half of the house, watching Granny cure children and adults of their dread by rolling the fear out of them with little balls of linen thread and bread. Mix her potions of, or whisper rosacea away, and wind knots of thread to be placed under the pillows of husbands who drink and beat their wives. Rina wasn't much interested in what was on the TV, and for the most part sat treating her dolls by using her granny's methods. The televiewers spread the news around the village that the little girl was going to be a wiser witch than the old lady. She knows all the spells and it strikes fear into you. As a result, however, Rina had no friends of either sex, except for Natasha, from the other end of the long street.
У раннім падлеткоўстве Рына марыла ўцячы ў Афганістан, каб біць там душмана і на сабе выносіць параненых шурамі, або пайсці жыць у лясную вартоўню, як монах Тук, дзярсу ў залаце, герой Джека Лондона. Яна ведала, што ў лесе есці, чаго не есці. як адпужнуць гадзіну ці звера, як адвесці лесавіка і недобрага чалавека. Занядбаныя дзеці самі гадуюць сябе і ў жыццё ўступаюць як Маўглі. Такой была Ірына, якая ведала, як атруціць паганага мужа, прысушыць хлопца, загаіць рожу і вылечыць кілу. Ведала, што Рэйган толькі і марыць, каб скінуць на наўгальную бомбу, а Беларусь – заснавальніца ААН і змагарка за мір ва ўсім свеце. Ведала, што іспанскія гранды маюць настолькі пародзістыя ступакі, што пад сподам нагі у іх працячэ ручаёк, не замачыўшы. Але прытым не ведала, што адбываецца з дзяўчатамі пры заспяванні. Вядома, у навуках бабы Дарохі часта траплялася месячная кроў, асабліва там, дзе трэба было прыструніць пітушчага ці гуляшчага мужа. Але Рына думала, што гэта кроў, спушчаная з раны маладзіковымі днямі. Таму яна аказалася зусім не гатовая да таго, што сталася на пакров.
In her early teens, Rina dreamed of running off to Afghanistan to kill mujahideen and carry wounded Shirag on her back from the battlefield, or going off to live in a little forest cottage like Friar Tuck, Dersu Uzala, or Jack London's heroes. She knew what to eat and what not to eat in the forest. She could scare a snake or a wild animal away. She could defend herself against forest spirits and bad people. Abandoned children bring themselves up and enter life like Mowgli. This was also the Rina, who knew how to poison a nasty husband, how to beguile a young man, how to heal rosacea, and how to treat a hernia. She knew that the only thing Reagan dreamt about was dropping a bomb on Navalny, that Belarus was one of the founding countries of the United Nations and fought for peace throughout the world. Not to forget that she knew the soles of Spanish grandees' feet were so nobly pure that a stream could flow beneath them without ever making them wet. In spite of all this knowledge, she did not know what happens to girls at puberty. Sure, menstrual blood figured large in Doroshka's practices, especially when it was a matter of reining in husbands with a fondness for drink or other women. But Rina thought that this was blood that had dripped from wounds on days when there was a new moon. That is why she was totally unprepared for what happened on the Feast of Intercession.
Баба у той цудоўны дзень прыперла з лесу шкутаванку дзікай каліны і перабірала лепячэ. А Марыя атрымала аванс і купіла дачцэ даўно прошаны пісталет-ліхтарык і 3 новых майткоў. І не якіх-небудзь панталонаў ці баваўняных майткоў, а сапраўдных шаўковых парашуцікаў, у фальбоначкі атласныя стужкі, якія цалкам змяшчаліся ў маленькае каляровае пудэлачка. Усё пайшло, як заўжды, абы-як. Акурат на святыя пакровы прыкінуўся ёй рак. Нават святы пакроў уймі кроў Бог з помаччу яздухам не дапамагло. Як Рына не шаптала, ад раку нішто не памагло. І кроў ляцела, і парашуцікі былі цалкам сапсаваныя, не адмываліся. Урэшце Рына пастанавіла памерці. Спакойна і годна. Нявеглы чалавек у сям'і ў такіх выпадках звычайна сыходзіў у прочкі, як старая Алена латышка, якая, каб не замінаць дзецям, сабрала клуначак і сышла ў балоты, так што яе больш ніхто і не бачыў. Ды іхны сабака Шарык сышоў прочкі 2 месяцы назад. Рына ўзяла ў падполе старое клячастае паліто і старыя боты, каб не шкада было, акраец хлеба, сушаных груш, пляшку вады і пайшла ў прочкі.
On that wonderful day, Granny had lugged home a shkutavanka full of wild gelder rose hips and was now sorting them out by the stove. Maria had received an advance on her pay and bought for her daughter a pistol-shaped little pocket torch that she had long been asking for, and 3 new pairs of knickers. Not just any old bloomers or cotton knickers with grey elastic, but real, fine, silk knickers. Little parachutes, with frills and satin ribbons that would fit neatly in her colourful little box. However, things went awry, just as they always do. On the feast of the intercession itself, Rina thought she had cancer. Even the words, "Holy Mother of the Intercession, take away the blood, I call on God to help, may the Holy Spirit be with me," were of no help. Whatever Rina whispered, nothing helped stave off the cancer. The blood flowed and the little parachutes were completely ruined. The stains couldn't be washed out. Finally, Rina decided to die, calmly and with dignity. In such circumstances, a sickly person in the family would normally go forth, like old Elena Wojciechowska, who, so as not to be a burden on her children, put together a little bundle, set forth into the marshes, and no one ever saw her again. What's more, their old dog Shark had gone forth a couple of months ago. Rina took her old check overcoat and old boots from the cellar. No one would miss them. Half a loaf of bread, some dried pears, a bottle of water, and went forth.
У той год зіма клалася ранняя, і з вечора пачало брацца на мароз. Цяпер Рына мала памятае тую ноч і той дзень і яшчэ ноч, якія яна правяла ў прочках. Яна ішла, а за ёй па лесе, ад наўгальнага да самага Вопіна і ўбібацька, ішоў воўк, свецячы з кустоў зялёнымі агеньчыкамі вачэй. Аднак яна ўжо ўмела трымаць ваўкоў на паўдарогі, да таго гэта быў адзінец. Раніцай, калі ўжо троху развіднела, яна разгледзела такі гаспадара. Гэта быў цяжкі, як глядзеш, мокры адзінец. Гаўядзень святога Юр'я. І зблытаць яго з сабакам было немагчыма. Сапраўдны воўк, галаваты, нязграбны. Лабатая галава яго нібыта налепленая на чужое тулава. Глядзіць з-пад лба цяжкім залаціста-зялёным позіркам, і кожная шарсцінка на ім іншага колеру. Рына і воўк доўга глядзелі адно на аднаго. Аж ён апусціў важкі, як палена, хвост, адвярнуўся і сышоў. Брат, дай мне паўдарогі, і я табе дам паўдарогі. Яна ішла і ішла, а потым сядзела за вываратнем, пакуль не змерзла, і ногі не скалелі. Асабліва мерзлі рукі, бо рукавіц Рына не ўзяла. Потым, калі яна выйшла, аж ва ўбібацька, тамтэйшыя людзі пасадзілі яе на воз, накрыўшы канаплянай хусткай, і павезлі ў нагальнае. Усяго Рына прайшла 15 кіламетраў, відаць, кружляла. Бацькі былі перапалоханыя, маўклівыя і ціхія. Відно было, што спужаліся. Калі Рына, плачучы, расказала пра рак, усе доўга маўчалі, пакуль баба не сказала: мои голубчики, выховали девку. Няхай цяпер со мною жыве. Так Рына канчаткова поступила на чорную сторону.
The winter was setting in early that year. Right from the evening it was clear that there would be a frost. These days, Rina can remember little of the night and the following day and another night that she spent forth. She walked and walked, and all the way through the forest from Nauhalne right to Wupin and Ubibatsky, there was a wolf following her. The little green fires of his eyes gleaming from out of the bushes. However, she knew how to keep a wolf at a safe distance, and this particular one was a loner. Early in the morning, when it was beginning to get light, she could make out the shape of the master. He was as heavy and as undercooked bread, a wet loner, one of St. George's wolves, and he couldn't possibly be taken for a dog. A real wolf, large-headed and ungainly. The head looked as though it had been attached to another animal's trunk. His golden green eyes stared grimly from beneath his brows. Every hair in his body was of a different color. Rina and the wolf stared at each other for a long time, until the wolf let his long, heavy tail drop, turned, and went off. Brother, give me half the road, and I will give you half the road. Rina walked and walked, then sat by an uprooted tree until she froze and her legs went dead. Her hands in particular were freezing cold. Rina hadn't taken any gloves with her. Then, when she finally reached Ubibatsky, some people there set her on a wagon, covered her with a hemp shawl, and took her back to Nauhalne. Rina had walked some 15 kilometers, although she seemed to have been going round in circles. Her parents had had a terrible scare. Still and silent, they were obviously frightened. When Rina, crying, had told them about her cancer, they all sat without saying a word until Granny spoke. Right, my lovelies. So that's how you brought the girl up. From now on, she'll live with me. That's how Rina ended up in the black half of the house.
Кто выдумал небытовую шары? Волк повторяет все фарбы поздней осени. Шерстинка, як мокрий пісок. Другая, як белый мох. Третья, як глина. Четвертая, як мокрая, пачынае граць на воўчай поўсці. Переливается, переливается у серпні, як восьмий цуд свету. Перед войной, як прийшли другие немцы, я думала сысціся зоркам. Але баба мне казала, дурніца ты, ён жа жыд. Жидоў усе б'юць, як не зерні. Я ўжо не знаю, чым яны Богу вінныя, але палічы ты, хто ў таго оркі застаецца. Усіх выбілі. І Шумля, і Гідеона, і Келю, і Мотла, і Давідзіка. Хай табе лепей тэму палічыць, я ўсіх не злічу. Так яно і выйшло. Орка і не настойваў, кажа, нядобра ідзе, на што нам з табой жаніцца. Не лётаў ужо мой орка камсамольскім сокалам, абвяў. У 1936-м ля вострых елак камвайр Лазівулькін злавіў нейкага жыда, які на Мозарці то на Каленкавіча ішоў, хаваўся. Прывёў яго ў лікпункт і пытаецца ў оркі, а ці ты яго знаеш? А орка зірнуў і абамлеў. Рабін Маше. Ён яшчэ з багалевіцкага пагрому быў усім жыдам галава і вялікі вучыцель. Яны без яго мой вады не папілі. Орка, кажа Лазівулькін. Што за жыд такі, знаеш ты яго? Орка глянуў вучыцелю ў вочы і казаць мне Лазівулькіну так. Таварыш Лазівулькін, гэта ж местачковы вар'ят, які ходзіць да ўсюды навучае, што чалавек павінен быць і трыснёг, і кедр. З яго ўсе смяюцца, дзеці яблыкамі ў яго кідаюць і свішчуць. І з яго ўсе смяяўся, і я цяпер якаюся. Як можна смяяцца з юродзівага Божага чалавека? Так от сказаў орка надвае, каб учителя Маше спасти.
Before the war, when the Germans came for the second time, I was thinking of going to live with Orca. But Granny said to me, "You silly girl, he's a Jew. Jews get beaten by everybody who isn't lazy. I don't know what they are guilty of before God, but just count how many relatives Orca still has left. We've all been killed. There was Shmuel, Gideon, Kayla, Motal, and little Davidik. Better let Tama do the count for you. I can't count them all." And that's how it was. Orca didn't insist either. He said that evil was running rife. So what would be the point of our getting married? My Orca was no longer flying high like a Komsomol falcon. His wings had been clipped. In 1936, escort policeman Lazivulkin caught a Jew near Vostrayelki who was heading for either Mazir or Kalenkovice on foot and hiding along the way. He brought them to the Likpunkt and asked Orca, "Do you know him?" Orca glanced and was struck dumb. It was Rabbi Moshe. Ever since the times of the Baghalevich pogroms, he had been the head of all the Jews hereabouts, and a great teacher besides. They probably wouldn't even take a drink of water without him. "Okay, Orca," says Lizivulkin, "who is this Jew? Do you know him?" Orca looked the rabbi straight into the eye and says to Lizivulkin, "Comrade Lizivulkin, this is our village idiot. He goes around announcing that the men have to be like reeds and cedar trees at the same time. everybody laughs at him, and the kids throw apples and whistle at him. I used to laugh at him as well, but I regret it now. How can you laugh at a holy fool? In that fork-tongued way, Orca succeeded in saving teacher Moshe's life.
А погляди-ка, Орка, що за папіри з жидовськими кружками я у його знайшов. Ціла торба напхана. Дробненьким маком писав, видать, что дурань. Хлеба не окрается, а бумагу прess с собой весь не тут. Орка поглядел. Мамочки, а там же уся Тора списана и потлумачена. Як жиду жить на белом свете? Каб ацалелі тыя тэксты, дык мовою жиды жылі, хто ведае. Лазівулькін загадаў тыя паперы папаліць. Орка паліць. А Маша выпрастаўся, стаіць і моўчкі глядзіць такімі бліскучымі вачыма, што аж душа ўмірае. Мука такая ў тых вачах. А Лазівулькін зырк на яго і кажа: «Мо пристреліць яго, Орка, а то ён зараз на нас кинется, вар'ячна». Але Орка упросил Лазівулькіна, отправил яго с девками в столовку накормить, самогон кидать. Маше ён сказал идти на Старобин и карту начертил просто на плане Жилинского, як ісці. Маше так на Орку поглядел и кажа: «И ты утекай, хлопче. Мы зрабілі тут, што маглі, нам тут не месца. Орка, адзінае месца, дзе яўрэю забаронена чытаць Тору. Дзе яўрэю забаронена чытаць Тору, гэта сральня. Дзяржава, якая ў сябе забараніла чытаць Тору, і ёсць сральня. Не можна чалавеку тут праводзіць жыццё, і твая шчылінка, Орка, хутка закрыецца. Уцякай». Вот так, голубка. Толку з таго, што Маше жидоў з Егіпта вывеў. І куды яны прыйшлі? У наша балота, дзе ім і канец. Ой, добра, калі гэты Маше хоць сам сабе выцягнуў.
And Orca, take a look at the papers with funny Jewish scribbles that I found on him. What are they? His bag's full of them. All this tiny writing that looks like poppy seeds. He's obviously not right in his mind. He hasn't got a crumb of bread, but he's lugging all the paper around with him. He must have got almost a pool of it. Orca took a look. Good God. It was the entire Torah, all written out with explanations of how a Jew should live on this fair earth. If those texts had survived, maybe the Jews would have lived better, who knows? Lazivulkin, however, ordered all the papers to be burned. So Orca set them alight. Moshe straightened himself up and stood in silence. There was a look in those blazing eyes of his that could freeze your soul. The torment there was in those eyes. Lizibulkin gave him an evil glance and said, "Perhaps we should shoot him, Orca. Otherwise he'll turn on us all of a sudden. He's crazy after all." Orca managed to persuade Lizibulkin to drop the idea, and instead send him with some girls to the canteen to get something to eat and some moonshine to drink. He told Rabbi Moshe to go to Starobin on foot and mark the route directly on Squire Zhilinsky's map. Moshe looked up at Orca and said, "You should run away as well, lad. We've done what we could. There is no place for us here now. I thought that would be the way to sully God's holy name." Orca, the only place where a Jew is forbidden to read the Torah is shithouse. Any country that forbids the reading of the Torah is itself a shithouse. It's impossible for a man to spend his life here. Your tiny crack is going to close soon, Orca. Run away. So there you have it, little dove. What was the point of Moses leading his people out of Egypt? For them to come here, to our marshes, and meet their end. I can only hope that Moshe managed to at least save himself.
У 1943 на другую блокаду, як усё навальне ў балота ўцякала, Орка сказаў, што нікуды не пойдзе. У партызаны яго не браў Шардыка, на чорта мне кажа гэты дахляк жыдоўскі. Жыдоў не любілі, маглі і свае ў спіну застрэліць. Людзі многія ненавідзелі савецкую ўласць, але спаганялі злосць на жыдах. Шардыку ж ці Лазівулькіна не зачэпіш. Яны ў сіле, так спаганяй злосць на жыдах. Як я сыходзіла ў балоты, кинула яму паесці і пляшачку дзедаўца. Кажу, як знойдуць цябе, то лепей ты гэту пляшачку ціхенька выпі, ды заснеш спакойна. Калі я вярнулася, то яго не знайшлі. Адрына стаяла цэлая. Але дзедавец ён выпіў. Он спужаўся чаго. Бо замёрз ці загаладаўся. Холодны быў, як камень. Я яго паклала на саначкі і за рэдыберам у лаўжы закапала. Ні краста не ставіла, нічого. Не да таго было. Ды я не ведаю, як усё па-іхняму зрабіць. Ой, нікога не засталося, каб мне сказаў, як па-іхняму зрабіць. Не стаў ён вялікім чалавекам у сваім народзе, а не ў чужым. Нават магілкі няма паямшу.
In 1943, at the time of the second blockade, the whole of Nauhalne fled into the marshes. Orca said that he wasn't going anywhere. Shardyka wouldn't have him in the partisan brigade. They were none too fond of the Jews and were quite capable of shooting their own in the back. Loads of people hated the Soviets, but took their anger out on the Jews. They couldn't touch Shardyka or Lazivulkin. That's where the power lay. So go and take it out on the Jews. When I was escaping to the marshes, I left him something to eat and a little bottle with hemlock. I said to him, if they find you, you'd better drink this bottle quietly, and then you'll go to sleep. When I returned, it was clear they hadn't found him. The hay barn was still in one piece, but he had drunk the hemlock. Maybe something had frightened him, or he was freezing or starving. He was as cold as stone. I put him on the little sledge and buried him in a pile of brushwood on the other side of Arudibir. I didn't put a cross up, nothing. I wasn't up to it, and anyway, I didn't know how the Jews do these things. There was nobody left who could tell me how to do it their way. He never did become a great man among his own people or among any other people. He doesn't even have a grave marking where he is anymore. Whoever came up with the idea that a wolf is grey, a wolf reflects every single color of late autumn. There will be one hair, the color of wet sand. The second one, like white moss. The third, like clay. The fourth, like damp alder. the thieves like Pete. Taken together, you can't see the difference. However, when the sun begins to play on the wolf's pelt, the animal shimmers like the eighth wonder of the world.
Рына могла зрабіць так, каб чалавек упаў, каб яму забалела, ці каб ён раптам адчуў тугу ці страх. Яна задумвалася, якой яна сама была б цяпер, каб ад пачатку не слухала калыханак пра набрынялыя крывёй падушкі, казак пра Піліпку сыночка і мядзведзя на ліпавай назе, будзённых расповедаў пра вайну на балотах. Бабінае выхаванне ператварыла яе ў Мауглі, што не чуе новага вялікага свету, не ўмее быць сваім. На каляды 2009-го яна сядзела ў Гардыберы, пражывала грошы, заробленыя ў Польшчы. Грошы канчаліся, хутка трэба было зноў вырушаць у свет. Рына сядзела ў сваім пакоі і лазіла ў інтэрнэце, вышуквала абвесткі. Кім стаць? Мыйшчыцай свіней у Ірландыі, сунічніцай у Галандыі, пластоўшчыцай рыбы ў Швецыі, оу-пэйр у Нямецчыне, гандляркай у Польшчы, складаўшчыцай у Чэхіі, нянькай 3 польскіх дзяцей у Чыкага. Патрэбная неабцяжарвальная для мазгоў праца, ложак у асобным пакоі і шынок ці манаполька недалей за квартал. Жыць можна ціха і прыемна. Жыць, як табе жыць, нічога не жадаючы і не чакаючы.
Rina knew how to make someone fall or someone ill, or suddenly feel longing or fear. She often wondered what she would be like now if she hadn't had to listen from early childhood to lullabies about pillows spouting blood, fairy tales about little sonny boy Philip and the bear with a linden tree leg, or everyday stories about war and the marshes. Granny's way of bringing her up had turned her into Mowgli, with no awareness of the new, wide world and unable to be part of it. She spent Christmas 2009 in Gardybér, living on the money she had earned in Poland. The money was running out, so it was time to set off out into the world again. Rina sat in her room, browsing the internet in a search for job offers. What did she want to do? Wash pigs in Ireland? Pick strawberries in Holland? Gut fish in Sweden? Be an au pair in Germany? Work as a shop assistant in Poland? Or in a warehouse in the Czech Republic? Be a nanny for 3 Polish children in Chicago? She wanted a job that wouldn't tax her brain too much. One that would give her a bed in her own room, with a pub or an off license no more than a block away. Where you can have a calm, pleasant life and simply take things as they come, without wanting or expecting anything.
Q&A, to the interactive part of today's program, and welcome to Jim and Ella. Jim and the Skaryna Library go back a long way. Jim has been one of the initial founding trustees of the library, was for many years serving as secretary to the board, and obviously has always been a very important person in Belarusian studies. We could say that Jim is a legend.
An epic legend in excerpts.
Epic legend. Jim and Arnold Macmillan, they are the two British scholars who have contributed enormously to the field of Belarusian studies. And it's wonderful that Jim is now continuing his interest in Belarus as a translator, and is now an established translator of Belarusian literature from Belarusian into English. How many books have you translated and co-translated with Ella?
Co-translated 2, but Ella has always participated, even if her name isn't there, so we've rectified that. Over the recent years, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Five books.
4 or 5.
And in fact, both of them co-translated, by Ella and Jim Dingley. So let's give them a round of applause. And I wonder whether anyone from the audience would like to start with any questions. Yeah? Do they need to come, people asking questions, do they need to come close to the camera?
Oh, if you speak louder.
Okay.
Okay, it's loud enough.
Sounds good.
Yeah? Okay. First of all, once again, I wanted to thank you so much for this wonderful work and for bringing this important piece of literature to English. But my question, I guess, I have 2. Firstly, what made you choose this specific work for translation? Because obviously there are lots of other books to be translated, so what specifically made you choose this one? And I guess the other question is, did you face any specific troubles, or what were the biggest challenges when you were translating this book? Thank you.
Okay. Why we decided to translate this book. In fact, the decision was taken for us in a way, because in December 2022, I suddenly received an email from Annette Lechner in the Żolnay Verlag in Vienna, who are the holders of the translation rights, and they published the German translation. Would I translate an extract which they could then send around UK publishers to see if anybody would be interested? Well, we did translate it, but I knew at the time that I didn't think anybody here would take it, because it wasn't clear from the extract exactly what the book was about. But that's where things went. We decided between us, Ella and me, that we really ought to translate this book even without a publisher or without a contract, because it was, in a way, so different from anything else that was being published from Eastern Europe and from Russia, the Russian world, let's say, not that we like it, but there it is.
And you heard it today. You heard it in both languages, in Belarusian and English. And this magic of word, it sounds like a spell. It sounds like a folklore fairy tale, but with all the meanings of the real life in there, with all cruelties that happened during the 100 of years that the book is talking about. And then again, we met the author in 2024 in Warsaw. We went there for the performance of Zekameron by Maxim Znak, and we met the author. and the image of her, this little woman, with all that we know what's inside, and how, where, it's just pure magic. And today, when I heard it in both languages, I sometimes felt like I felt a bit, you know, how people lucky they can speak only English, or how they're lucky they speak only Belarusian. Because for me it was so emotional. As soon as the Belarusian part was over, I was all just in tears, you know, shredding my tears, and then the English part would start, and I would start crying again. And I'm thinking, oh God, why should I cry? Why? Every time it's like the same language but different. Do you know what I mean? For me, it was a double whammy. And then and all covered in tears. I couldn't stop crying through the whole performance. I have to admit. Something about the interesting moments.
Biggest challenges or interesting moments.
I would say, you know what, the biggest challenge was when you can't find the word in the dictionary. Yeah. So it's not simply Belarusian language, it's a language of the marshes. So you try all sorts of dictionaries, you try internet, you know that fishing guy? Mm-hmm. Nothing. And the only option when we just try everything, I call the author. So I can ask you, some of the guys, for Belarusian speaking guys, who knows just, what's that glavish?
Go on in. What's a glavish?
Come on, what's glavish? You can't find it in the dictionaries. It's the info from the author. Jim?
Well, I think you probably could find it. I mean, but we did spend an awful lot of time on the internet looking at sources, some of which were helpful, some of which were totally unhelpful. But there is in the same line as that word glavish, which just means a lump of something, I think. Only here it's a lump of bread.
Badly cooked bread. That's glavish. Badly cooked bread. One word.
Badly cooked bread.
Yeah. Undercooked bread, yeah. But in the same sentence, there's a wonderful root word, hauyat. Do you know what it means? Hauyat.
Come on, Belarusians. What's a hauyat?
It's statek. It's a herd.
Yeah, it's a herd.
Or a flock, or in the case of wolves, a pack. Because the wolf there is described as a hauyadzim, Świętego Jurija. Now that set me off as well. You know, what is a St. George's wolf? And the only place I could find anything of really serious nature in the internet was in a page on Estonian folklore, which was useful, you know, yeah. So it's something from Eastern Europe, where St. George is the patron of wolves. Not the guardian against, but the patron of wolves. And then very soon after that we get a description of the wolf, which became a song here, you heard. Each of the, what was the word, fur, pieces of fur, they're all different colours.
Hair.
The hairs of the fur, yeah. And that is, I think, what attracted both of us to it, is the fact that the wolf as a concept is respected by people upon whom the wolf naturally preys. It's their job, they do that, and it's the people's job to find a way of living with them. Just as Elena does when she's going walkabout after her cancer attack, let's call it that. Yes?
May I ask, do you think it's a reference when she says that she's a Maori? It's a clear reference to Kipling.
Oh,
of course.
It must be.
Because just I was thinking Maori was raised by wolves.
Yes.
So leisurely she tried to create a kind of
Yes,
connection.
indeed. Yeah,
Definitely,
that's absolutely right. Yeah.
And try to connect the folklore of very funny enough through the media, like worldwide, because the Book of Jungles is worldwide. I don't think it's conscious, of course. I think Mowgli is a kind of unconscious, but it's all around wolves. May I ask you in this case, why did you choose this name? It's very important to choose the right title, and you choose Mr. Wolf.
Yes,
Good question.
good question.
I felt that, for example, the German title, Was suchst du, Wolf, was just too blunt. Voўča needs something. The vocative case, it needs something. We could have chosen Brother Wolf, but I think Mr. gives that aspect of respect. And there's another thing too. I am basically a very cynical individual. But I remember my children, when they went to primary school, played a game called What Now, Mr. Wolf? But it's a very established game here. And it's all where the wolf is smiling and happy and pretends. And they're not like that at all. They need respect. It's not a joke.
Because in here we can add how the Polish translator translated the title.
I've seen it, yes.
Yeah, it's
The Polish title of the book is absolutely amazing. I think all the Scandinavian languages have got the same thing, and the Spanish translation is, what are you looking for, wolf? Like the poor beast has lost his telephone charger or his car keys. In the Polish translation is O wilku omówiono w izbie.
Yes.
Yeah? There's talk of the wolf in the cottage. And the second line of it is Wilk tu siedział na pryzbie.
Okay. So
Talk of the devil. Talk of the devil. And what, again, Belarusian speakers, what is a pryzba in English?
Is there one?
Well, no, there isn't. How would you describe it?
it's never mind. It's part of the house that between the ground and the logs.
Outside.
Outside.
Massive clay and stones mixed together.
Yeah.
It's an insulation and also a place to sit.
Yeah, especially for the elderly.
Yeah, like me.
You wouldn't be able to get up.
No, that's true.
Right. So we discussed the. Oh yes, that's why we decided it was Mr. Wolf to give respect and distance to wolf. Because it's not just simply an animal. It's a spirit of the land.
Like a totem.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, got it.
that's the idea.
But it's also idiomatic, because the original title is an idiom.
That's right. Yeah. Now we didn't need to take that further. What do you know about that as an idiot?
Wow.
I couldn't find much on it.
По что ідеш? Воўча, Полдовина, посироча. When the wolf has taken everything, he's taking most things. Now he's going to get the rest. The rest.
What else do you
What
want?
else? Yeah. What else is there? Полдовина и сироча is the stuff, widows and orphans.
Can I just please add
Yes, please.
Sure.
that the wolf is coming always for the weakest, and that's also in the title and in the book. The wolf is coming to take the weakest from the last. What is the weakest family? The weakest person has got left. It always would attack the weakest. So there are so many meanings, and I think the title you have chosen is wonderful. It really would speak to English speaker without really taking away the meaning without taking away from the original meaning.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
What about other idioms? Because the language of the author is
Right.
Is
Oh,
a thing
yes.
in itself. It's full of idioms.
Some of the idioms that the author uses, we translated word by word, and then adding a little bit of explanation. For example, "Где собака хвостом по мете?"
Wherever dog wags his tail.
Wherever dogs wag their tails, it means everywhere, because dogs wag their tails everywhere. That's why we just didn't change a thing.
No,
We just
it was too good.
translated
It
word
was
by
too-
word.
Too good to leave.
Because
That was, yeah.
we were trying to find some sort of something that can be used instead, and then we decided what for. It's a colorful language, and it's a language that everyone will understand. So some of them were left as they are, but some of them, I can't remember now what I mean, but we were finding some sort of what exists in English with the same conclusion.
Well, I've got a very extreme example where a committee or a group of Jews goes to the Soviet authorities to ask if they could be given rifles to defend themselves against the marauders, against the Bahalevich people, for example.
Bandits.
The bandits. And Svetlana, I should say Eva Vezhnavets, the author, writes, what they got was drinking cholera washed down with fever or something like that. And I thought, well, let's be honest about this. So we translated it literally, and then we added in English, in other words, they got bugger all. So it's absolutely right.
Anything else?
Oh,
yes.
Lots of
What did
things.
you
We could be
find?
here for hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Go on.
carry on.
Lydia, what did you find most difficult about it?
Some of the things, for example, we were looking. It took us a long time to find the word hemlock for Dinavets, because according to the description of Eva Vezhnavets, it's some sort of, if you take it in little amounts, a person just loses the desire to live, becomes really like this in little amounts. But if you take it in a good amount, you're dead, 100%. So we were trying to find what similar effects different herbs have in English, and we found hemlock, because in big amounts you're dead, that's definitely, but in small amounts you just become lifeless.
It's possible. Eva, the author, saw our translation and agreed with it, but it would be interesting to know what the Germans did, what the Polish translator did. The German translator gave it as Distelsaft, which only means thistle juice. So, you know, those of you who take thistle juice as liquid, be careful. And the Polish one is the most interesting. It's czworoist, for leaves. And that is, it's called in English, or in Latin, Paris quadrifolia, also known as herb Paris or true lover's knot. And it's a plant that has one single berry a year, which is poisonous. So there was a lot of searching has been done. I don't know what it says in the Scandinavian translations or in the Spanish one.
How does it compare in difficulty to the other translations you did?
Oh, it was very difficult. But it was so inspiring as well, because we spent most of the time fighting each other. Because no, you don't understand it. Let me explain it to you. No. That's better. Okay, we're moving into that direction. Most of the time, we just spent fighting, in the good sense of this word. But
Would you call it that?
yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. But we laughed a lot when we find something really. You just feel like your day is fulfilled if you find something, a solution, or for example, you find something that you were looking for a long time and suddenly, there we are. It's that moment, which is very, I would say, inspiring.
Yeah. That leads to another aspect. Well, it's part of the same aspect, really. But you're dealing with a text, as we've just seen, actually, which is magic. It has magic overtones. And what we wanted to ensure is that the translation had those overtones as well. Now, whether we've succeeded in that, I really don't know. We tried.
According to my tears, yes.
Yeah, right. Go on then. Native speaker question again. What are baloty z macharami? What are they? It's actually a Russian word as well.
What is machare?
Machare.
It's spelled with an O in Russian. Shall I read you Svetlana's definition? Черные люстерки зебахна настоянные на воде. Часто прикрываются сверху сеткой рослинности.
Black mirrors in the marshes.
Вступаешь и летишь глубоко до самого черта. In English, I discovered that they're known as eyes.
Say that again.
Eyes. Simply eyes. E-Y-E-S.
Machare.
Eyes of what? Sorry.
Just eyes.
In the swamps, in the marshes, areas that covered with some greenery on the top, but they're completely water underneath. No bottom. You step on it and you go vertically down.
I'm wondering now, because it was published in Ireland, right? Would Irish English, because in Belarusian, or because we have parallels between. So I wonder if that would be a specific word that would be more
Celtic word.
Celtic?
More translate the mood.
Yeah.
We were just saying that I'm pretty sure one instance that they used in the text, I edited it to boghole. Because a boghole is not exactly the same thing. It doesn't have green on top, but it does sink down. I had to rescue my dog once.
I mean, that would have been an interesting discussion that I'd like to have had with your previous assistant, Ashley. As an Irish speaker, I mean, this it would be a fascinating area to go into.
I'm just loving hearing you talk about nature, and I'm wondering, as translators, as you're looking at Belarusian nature, did it, when you sort of retreat back into your domestic world, did it help you see, I don't know, your garden or your walks that you go on in a different way when you're thinking about these plants and other spaces far, far away?
Number one, I hate gardening.
After Dutch experience.
You see, I was a town kid when I was growing up, so all this nature is not for me. So I was discovering everything from the clean list, I needed to discover it myself, because I didn't have a clue what its whole thing was about. Many things, including a towner is different from a village person. Do you know what I mean? So it was the whole thing was a discovery and a very long journey. Because when we started, we didn't have a clue when we were going to finish, because everything was a struggle, in a good sense of a struggle, to make sure that everything which is in the Belarusian text is exactly the same in the English. So we are not exchanging words for the sake of exchanging words. Do you know what I mean? It was very important what the author says. At the end, it was our priority. So the author, but you see, the author, she's a very modest person as well. She would say, shall I mention that?
Yeah.
She was always like, I don't don't care. Oh, whatever. Just choose the simplest way. Please. Oh, yes. She said, my little book is interesting only for the Belarusians. That's the quote. Do you know what I mean? She was always like, oh, whatever. I trust you. Just whatever. Just choose your own words. And she was like that. And she was pretty sure that this book is interesting only to the Belarusians. Nobody else in the world is interested in her book. And she said, I wasn't writing it for the big world. I was writing it for us little Belarusians.
Yeah, right at the back.
Yeah, thank you so much for this translation. And I just want to say a big thank you, and I totally share Alice's sentiment of being able to read in Belarusian and in English. My first thing was to do the white check, and it's absolutely holds. So it's the emotions exactly sort of transferred to English. But I want to ask, I guess, two questions. Jim, you stopped the first question on a kind of cliffhanger of starting the translation without having a contract with the publisher. I'm quite interested, how did you find the publisher, how the journey was working with the publisher and so on? And
shall we ask the publisher?
Yeah.
Well, no, I think just to say, we sent it around a lot of publishers in the UK. Then I read about a book published by Bullaun Press that had won the Republic of Consciousness Prize. So this is a place to respect. And I sent it to Bridget entirely on the off chance, hoping that something would happen, and being glad that it wasn't in London or indeed any centre in England. We published in Scotland before, but probably somewhere else around there would be a great honour for us. And I'm very glad to say that Bridget accepted. I really am. I'm very grateful to her for that. And the Instagram page, by the way, of the Bullaun Press is worth looking at. There must be a lot of books there that need reading.
They keep disappearing on Instagram.
Oh,
It's just
We cannot bear it, you know. One day, 24 hours, and then you cannot find it.
Yeah. So, and we were lucky, but you see, we'd already translated it, but we were lucky there. And many thanks to Bridget.
No, thank you. Thank everyone here today for an incredible, unforgettable event. Very, very special. The fact that the book was, where everything was already translated, that meant that we could read it, because obviously it's so hard to commission a text when you've only read half of it.
Yeah, that's absolutely
Which
right.
I have
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
doing, but
Yeah.
the fact that it was all there to assess, I mean, that in itself was a huge help. And then, I don't know, it spoke to me. That weird combination of humor and
Horror.
horror, humor,
horror.
Yeah.
horror.
No, it is very special. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just maybe if you expand a little bit more for an Irish. Does it speak to your national feeling? Does it speak to your identity? With completely.
Yeah, I think certainly some of the elements of folklore and witchcraft would be a bit closer, perhaps, to us than, I don't know, some parts of the UK. I mean, there are still people who have the cure for various ailments, you know, and that does get passed down.
They're like whisperers. Yep.
Yeah.
I wondered if there were any left in Ireland.
Yeah, no, like, just in the queue in Lidl a few weeks ago. I heard the person in front of me telling the girl at the till that she must go to his neighbour for the cure for warts. Quite casually.
Have you been in GP? Don't go.
Alcohol as well.
Does that answer the question?
But what was your first impression? You were so lucky you got the translation nobody else had, and full book in front of you. Why did you stop to read?
suddenly Jim reminded me something that I found in my past that corresponds immediately with the book. It's my grandmother I never met because she died before I was born. Waited for 3 days for my father, he was the sixth child, the youngest child in the family, to come so she could pass her abilities, her knowledge to him. And because he was in a town, he didn't come. So she was dying in agony, and to help her die, people broke the roof of the cottage to allow her soul to go through. My father was, he wasn't a whisperer, but he could stop the blood. That's what I know. All the wards he was doing for me when I was a kid. So something that I never thought about before, but suddenly Jim said, "Tell about your father." Okay, it's okay. So it's very still alive in Belarus. All this knowledge, all these abilities of whisperers and that sort of things.
Disappearing, though, obviously.
It is, of course.
As everywhere.
It's
somehow
not,
alive.
It's not as widespread like it used to be, but still, it exists.
Thank you. I think it's all in line with this exactly this kind of conversation, because there's so much packed in this book, so much knowledge that it's not just sort of just linguistic equivalence or all of that. There's so much stuff that, like, how do you explain it even to Belarusian readers in Belarusian of what's going on here? And I noticed that you have endnotes. I noticed in the book there's endnotes. I'm interested in, did you make the endnotes? Was it something with the publisher you came to come up with? And who's intended, like, audience for this? Because some things seems to be very easy, like, okay, everybody should know that. But some things I'm like, oh my God, there should be also notes in the Belarusian version of that.
Yes.
So I was quite curious about this as well, because we want people to know these things, but it's really a lot.
It was one of the parts of our fight, because I insisted on more notes, more knowledge into the book. And you said, no, they're not going to publish it. Nobody's interested. And it was one of the things that I was trying to push through. So I don't know how many we've got, 30 something. So no, there we are.
50, I think. 52. No, I mean, I, as a former academic, I just look at footnotes or endnotes with horror. Yeah.
But we tried to use as minimum as possible. Just not to be like, oh, these math people, they can't stop talking about this. You know what I mean? But some of the things I would like to mention, for example, we asked the author, remember the nightingale that sings in the forest? And in Belarusian it sounds like this. Krutiu, krutiu, muzhik, muzhik, sala, sala. And I asked the author, is it only phonological, or is that a meaning in it, some sort of a meaning? And she said, no, just phonetics, pure phonetics. So instead of that, it's a different text.
No, it's not.
Is it in the book like that?
It's in the book like that, yeah.
I drink to you tonight, moonshine, slurp, slurp, slurp. Because here, sala is the fat stuff, but it's phonetic like the nightingale sings in the forest. So we were trying to pass that meaning a little bit, but it's mostly the rhythm and the sound. Yeah, there we are.
You made it beautiful and incredibly romantic. It sounds like, the 19th century.
I've never heard a nightingale say that, but still, I mean.
I'll tell you what, we even put into the notes something about a driver of the horses called Nesterka. And when I explained to the author what we meant, she said, I say it in Belarusian, "Чаровная фантазия перекладчика." And
the enchanted fantasy of the translators.
Fantasy of the translators. Because she said, oh, it's just the man's name, Nestor, that's it, nothing else. And we were talking about Nesterka, like being really good driver, and...
Rush to footnote 32.
yeah, you can read it. Footnote 32. But it's all pure fantasy that we invented. Then it was too late to change.
No,
well, you know, as a writer,
the whole thing is magical fantasy, really. I mean, why not?
When I want to say as a writer, they write unconscious things unconsciously. They create, and then they
that's
cannot
right,
explain them, but the translators
yes,
can.
that's right. Yeah, the text no longer belongs to the writer; it belongs to the reader as well. That's the translation. Yes.
Because you work with the imagination of the reader, like. Somehow, if you provide the right signal to the reader will get what the writer
go off on another
thought.
direction. Exactly. Yeah.
You know, that's the art of translator. So I'm very pleased that we are meet the artists in translation. Thank you very much. I read it first in English, I should say, from my side. They finally decided, okay, it deserved that I read it in Belarusian.
So my other question was, you mentioned that you had a chance to actually talk to the author and clarify some moments, and obviously that is the luxury that you don't necessarily always have with other books that you translate, right? Because a lot of authors are no longer there, right? But and you've also mentioned that the author is incredibly shy and modest. But I guess my question is, did you find it helpful, and in what way, to be able to discuss the book with her? Not necessarily in the way that you could always clarify the meaning of specific words or sentences, but what other uses, for lack of a better word? I'm not sure if the question is clear, but in what ways was it useful for you to have a chance to discuss with her?
She's such a light person. In the sense, she's so good in whatever direction you look at her. She's you see, she wrote this book 10 years. 10 years it took her to write this little book, and I understand why, because there are so many things that exist only in Belarusian. Well, what are they? In English.
Exclamations.
Exclamations.
Tchumara.
Yeah. Tchumara. What's tchumara? Apparently, it's something that starts when you start thinking about something bad in your head, and to get rid of it, you have to spit. Mara, go away. And did you get it? Did I understand correctly the question?
Yeah.
So it's something, I can't remember, well, you probably just missed it.
You know what?
Tchumara.
We didn't translate it, that's true, but I don't think we needed to. It's where Granny is listing all the things that the Bolsheviks would come after and requisition, not only money, but food, but cattle hooves, horns, tchumara. Short of the other story, she says. And the devil knows what. Yeah.
So basically we were trying to find some standard words that mean the same.
No, about the other one, while we're on this one, with this phrase is, padla staraya, story of treats. That's a wonderful phrase. Wonderful phrase, isn't it?
In padla staroya, it's like an old animal in the household that basically near death.
Isn't it dead? Like Puzzler is a dead animal, probably.
Yeah. Well,
no, you would refer to an old dog still alive.
yeah, like me, you see, puzzle.
You see, it depends on region.
It was about educating people in the new communist country.
Yes,
So
schools
they
will
will
take it very
educate
yeah.
the young ones according to their age. They will educate the teenagers according to their age. They will educate youngsters, like between 20 and 30. And if you already are 40, padla staroya. Why do you need educating yourself? You're already, like, you know, on the tip, finished. That's it, all done.
1 foot in the grave?
Yeah.
1.5 even.
Yeah, so one part of my question here was that, as we previously mentioned, that the book is so layered that sometimes you struggle to understand, not necessarily because it's hard, but because there's just so much and you feel it in so many different ways at once, right? So if the chance to talk to the author help you to understand it, to discover it in some other ways that you haven't realized before.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? I think that's true. But in a way, it's true of the book itself, and it's up to the reader to connect the dots. For instance, when it was something a part of what we saw earlier, when Urina puts her hand onto the satin of the coffin in which Granny's lying, she has this package and she puts it in. And what the hell is the package? You don't know. You have to read the book to find out. And there are so many things. Remember how it ends, that a dog's death is irrelevant.
Doesn't count.
And it goes all the way back to when Rina was going to see Granny.
Yeah.
One of the questions people often ask about this work is about the darkness of it. Why people are so fascinated with this work. This work has been also called a cult novel. Cult novel that has so much horror, suffering, pain. What makes it so required, so interesting, so needed to be?
Can I answer that? I'll answer that first. Look, it seems to me that it's a novel, it's a book. I don't want to talk about a novel, it's a book. It's a presentation of what people lived through, or in this case one person lived through and is recounting. And it's a kind of book that you don't read elsewhere very easily. And that makes it a kind of cult novel. I mean, I was thinking that what the Nasha Niva review said, it's a cult novel. Well, I think they're trying to belittle it, quite honestly, being Nasha Niva. Yeah. But it's what I would want a cult novel to be is something that you go back to because it is important to you as a reader. And I would never say that War and Peace is important to me as a cult book music. This one is, undoubtedly, without a shadow of a doubt. And what makes it important, I think, is that you think it's all darkness, but it can't possibly be. Human beings can't live in darkness always. There is a little bit of joy, as Dorothea herself says. We were happy in the 1930s, although it's hard to imagine how, to us now. It's very difficult to look back and say, how could they have stood all this? People have to. That, I think, was what's so wonderful to me about the book. Anything?
No, except that I keep thinking that probably the Jews will never forgive this book. I don't know why I say this. Only because all these scenes, they're so horrifying, they're so bloodthirsty, they are this blood up to this level everywhere. It's just like through all this, but because it's from the point of view of Dorothea. Why? What did they do that everyone beats them? Everyone who is not lazy beats them. And I'm still waiting for sort of a maybe reaction from that side, and I'm sort of almost not breathing because I'm afraid to breathe that side. I don't know why I'm saying it. But another thing, because many of us Belarusians can't go back to Belarus right now. And that's another very emotional side of all of us, because we are all traumatized here by the fact that we can't go there like in a normal country, like enjoy life for full. And when you ask people, how do you live there? Well, we live. And you can't say, because sometimes people say they live inside and we live outside. Now they can't, because what I'm thinking that probably the authorities now will put, what is called, ino agent on Vezhnavets.
Oh, a foreign agent.
A foreign agent on Vezhnavets, because everything is coming to that sort of a, I'm not giving an idea, I'm just sort of really afraid of everything, because it's a wonderful book. And I would like people read it.
Do you think it presents Belarus in a bad light? That it's a sort of a dark, primitive glacial state that people will get horrified of when they read it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely, 100%.
You see, no nationalism plays a part. There's no nationalism in this at all. I mean, the only figure that is supposedly national is Bullaun Press. Well, you know, with a right slob. I mean,
and even they're bad.
Yeah.
So in that way, she follows the steps of Svetlana Alexievich, which
yeah.
was also a very important voice introducing Belarus to
yeah.
the West.
Yeah. You present Belarus as it was, or you present it in some idealized fashion, like I'm afraid I love it. I love it, but.
It's a pretty Svetlana Alexievich introduced Belarus as much as she introduced Soviet.
I think that's it. Yeah, that is the important moment. This is an area of the world that we know nothing about in this country. I mean, I can understand why the Germans have taken it to heart, and they take other Belarusian literature to heart very quickly. But here it's different, because you know Russia is Ruski Mir. It's all nice we know about Russia because there's Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, or as I call them, Tolstoyevsky.
Dostoevsky. Oxbridge, Dostoevsky.
Yeah, why not? Oy vey.
Have
we exhausted the topic?
Yes, I think so.
We could go on.
I actually have a couple points. I wanted to address the title once again. You talked about the humour and the horror. Caroline, you talked about how it was idiomatic. That sense that it refers to the English children's game, What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, I think is really powerful. It's very evocative of childhood, and I am currently studying to become a play therapist. I'm coming at it from a child development perspective, where children's games aren't meaningless. It's not jokes or presenting it as a joke. I don't see that title and think of it as a joke. A lot of children's games and how they play is to integrate different aspects of experience, to integrate the horror and the beauty, the lightness and the darkness, and I think that game really encapsulates that. This idea of what now, Mr. Wolf? In the game, the child gets eaten, right? And it's like, the title's almost like, I've been eaten, what now, Mr. Wolf? I think it's really powerful in English. But yeah, I have a question for you, Mum.
Okay.
About what it meant to you to translate this book as that you can't go back now, and what did it mean for you to be able to translate it? You know, I saw how emotional you got in the performance. Now we could speak about it.
Yeah, I spent like 2 hours crying. I did enjoy every minute of the process. because it wasn't even translating to publish. Sorry about that. But it was translating as a process of enjoyment and playing with language. And it's just playing with both languages, Belarusian and English, just to sort of maybe to rearrange it, to put it upside down, but with the same effect. So for me, it was a very creative process, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Was it cathartic in any way?
According to my tears, yes.
That's why you wear this T-shirt, I guess.
Yeah.
Be a part of
And I would like to wish Eva Vezhnavets good health and our support. Because of her book, we experienced so much today. Buy the book.
How did you say? Tuchmarada? For the disease? Tuchmarada? For anything that.
Maybe just to round up, there are not so many Belarusian pieces of Belarusian literature translated into English. And each...
Those big books by Ladarlo, there are quite a few of them.
Now they've all been cut up,
they're genre
dug into the
themselves.
ground. Tractors, don't worry.
But what do you think can be done to popularize Belarusian literature poets? What else can be done?
I don't know, to cause a scandal.
So what 2020 was not enough of a scandal we caused? Not enough trouble?
One step forward is, I read recently that the Belarusian publishers in Poland have formed an association. Now, one possibility, and this goes back to my first experience of translating Belarusian things, was when the publisher of the first thing that we did seriously was a book of essays by Skaryna. And the title of the book was the title of one of the essays, and the person Elvis Presley was mentioned in the title, and that seduced the publishing editor of Scotland Street Press to buy the rights of this book. Now, it was my own fault. I read the book, and I ought to have said, this doesn't stand a cat in hell's chance. And of course it hasn't. It was translated. Because there is no interest in this kind of local essay. I found it fascinating, the essays about her mother or one of her aunts coming in and ruining the whole day because she bought pork to boil. While the pork was boiling, they're drinking vodka all the time, so the day goes. But that was because the publishing editor had been in the Frankfurt Book Fair, and she saw this books from Belarus stand and went up to it, obviously, and got offered this book. Now, Igor Lochvinal, I'm sure many of you have heard of him, came to the London Book Fair in 2016, exactly 10 years ago. I remember this because it was the first time and the only time I've ever been to the London Book Fair. You were there too, Igor, weren't you? Yeah. And he didn't have there was no stand for Belarusian books, but he just had some meetings. Now, what I noticed when I was there is that the Russian book stand was enormous. There was also a good-sized Ukrainian stand, and there was even a stand of books from Georgia. But from Belarus, zilch, nothing. Now, it may be that the Belarusian Association of Publishers from Poland could do something about at least an attendance at the London Book Fair. One way forward. It costs money, I know, I understand that. But how else do you promote what you're offering? It's just a thought. But on the other hand, of course, You could say that Belarusian writers ought to write something worth publishing. I mean, books about elephant infestation don't interest the world at large. And I'm sure you know what novel I'm talking about, some of you don't. Yes? Do you? No. Obviously. Sasha Filipenko's Duff book.
It's not Belarusian.
Well, any more questions?
Maybe.
Comments?
Oh, Alan.
Alan.
Yeah, thank you, Alan Flatt. I'm up in Edinburgh, and thank you for the ability to join in at a distance. Just one question to try to tie together this overarching, enormous historical overview that the book has. How do you, Jim and Ella, is there anything really comparable that is currently available and translated? Because this is covering something like 110 years. It goes back into a bit of First World War period. We get the 30s, you've referenced that. We certainly get the 40s. We get Soviet period, and we get a contemporary Belarus thrown in. What would you say, or is there anything really comparable? In this coverage as a well, it's really partly novel and partly historical drama, and covering almost the entire 20th century, a 100-year coverage.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of texts and books. We got plenty available. They cover a bit of the 30s, they cover the 40s, post-Soviet period, but something that covers so many generations. Is there anything comparable? If so, it'd be interesting to compare with it.
Well, of course, in the introduction, we put the reference to Andrei Khadana in his YouTube video about the book, who likens it to the Gabriel Marquez 100 Years of Solitude. You see, that is a vast book, huge, and I don't think can ever be repeated certainly not in Colombian literature in Southern America. I think that the book by Eva Vezhnavets is unique by virtue of the period it covers and the way it covers that, the way it deals with the material. It can't be repeated. So what we're looking for then is something that will appeal to readers, that says something new and fresh. The experience of emigration, of living a life outside the country, but trying to represent the country, I think is something that is not easily experienced by the English, because they carry England everywhere, and we can't, and there's nowhere better to be, so that we make a little England for ourselves. I found novels something like that in Belarusian, but I'm really not sure about translating them. I just don't know whether they would be immediately desirable to the English reader, because you can't know without trying, but there's a whole amount of effort going into making attempts to, we have to live. I know that's not a very satisfactory answer, but I think...
Well, it's helpfully emphasised the breadth that the book does cover in terms of contemporary meaning last 100 years.
Yes, yeah.
Of Belarus history, which does have some comparisons with Eastern Ukraine in parts. And I just wondered if there was anything similar that had been published in that area, or if the character and nature of the wetlands and the book, the almost isolation of the family,
yeah,
in many respects from history, impacting in certain specific big ways, but life carrying on regardless. Yes, it would be interesting to know if there's anything comparable. But certainly, thank you for answering the Belarus context, which in terms of in English language, you seem to be saying, no, there isn't really anything comparable.
No,
in English.
Not anything else. No. Can I just maybe finish? Not entirely finish necessarily, but quote one example of the collection of little stories by Maxim Znak that Ella and I translated and was shortlisted for the Republic of Consciousness Prize. On the shortlist, there were 2 books that dealt with little small farmers in Brazil. I mean, сколько можно? How many do you need? I found that a little surprising, I have to say.
Right. Well, if there are no more questions, we can say a huge thank you to both of you.
Thank you.